listen to it.
Just a message to say we are recording this meeting, Swamiji.
Okay. So, Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Now coming back to the Purusha Suktam itself, there are many things we have to understand about any Vedic Suktam. So, to start with, take your attention to the eyebrow center. Bend your head a little bit so that you are looking towards your own sternum, the rib cage, and at the base of the rib cage, 10 finger breadths from your navel. If you keep your hand starting with the little finger of your right hand at the navel, fingers together in front of your abdomen, then above the thumb of the right hand, place your left hand little finger up to the thumb. This is 10 finger breadth or dashangulam. At that part, keeping your eyes closed, let us chant Omkar 3 times, keeping our attention at that part. Breathing in. Om. Take your head up. Hari Om Tat Sat. Now, when you look at any Vedic stuti, any suktam from the Vedas, there is something that we have to remember, that the Vedas are not simple Sanskrit. They are Sanskrit where it's almost like a code where you find one hidden behind another, and the meaning is not usually apparent where you see it. So, in fact, many of you have been part of Swami Satyananda's teaching on the yoga and tantras. And we have to remember that many of the Vedic suktas are done to the accompaniment of Havan, Homa, or Yajna. Not that everything is done that way, but there are some where you get the homas are also done with the words that are chanted. Now, these are very ancient words. And some of these, many of these words, nearly every word has a meaning in the Veda, which refers to the revelation that rishis had in their own times of sadhana. And they had broken many barriers. Having broken, they moved into a cosmic dimension of consciousness. And from there, they discovered the Purusha. And then they have given these simple directions to the coming generations for those who are sincere and want to know the truth. use those codes and go deep into it. Now imagine that you are in a country where there is a lot of fight with another country. You are a quiet country, you mind your own business. Some other country comes in and tries to damage your quietness. What do? You are on the military track. But then the opposite party, and you have many missiles, you don't know what they have. So then you have an intelligence agency. The intelligence agency decodes what you get on waves, that sound waves that are communicated through telephones, through the media, through various other ways which get more and more innovative. So the Vedas established once and for all some of these code names that you find in the Vedic literature itself, so that you could move into a practical dimension. And to a large extent, it is Sri Aurobindo to whom we have to thank for bringing out much of the secret of the Vedas into the public domain, which the rishis and paramparas have kept with themselves for a very sensible reason, because these codes are for practicing sadhaks. And if you don't practice it the right way, and if you don't understand what they are saying in the right way, you can create disturbance for yourself and for everybody else. You must have heard in the Mahabharata itself how Ashwatthama, the son of the Guru, who was very close to Duryodhana, a Kaurava Duryodhana, was into evil ways, and he wanted the kingdom, power hungry. So at the end, he was defeated. And while he lay dying, Ashwatthama, his very close friend, thought he would make his friend happy. So what he did was, he let out the Brahmastra, which is like a nuclear bomb, many times over, with the mantras that said, kill all the descendants of the Pandavas. And having done that, he went and killed the sons of Yudhishthira. And then he came back, Yudhishthira and the other Pandavas, and then he went back to Duryodhana and he said, I have good news for you. Even if you are dying, you are not vanquished, because the Pandavas will have nothing to go back to. All their children are dead and there is nothing left for them. Now, this astra that he had let out was something he learned from his father. Drona was a very impartial teacher, preceptor, and he chose the students to whom he would give certain astras which were dangerous. And that is why the Yama Niyamas are so very, very important, because if you don't learn to follow the Yamas and Niyamas right in the beginning, no amount of any technique will help us, because when and if you get certain happenings in your life, you can get attached to it. When you get attached to it, then a siddhi can devastate a lot of people, including yourself, and you will fall from your spiritual climb itself. So when the Ashwatthama used to realize that his father had taught only Arjuna among all his students this missile, the Brahmashirta and the Brahmastra, he felt rejected and he wanted to learn it too. So he kept badgering his father until the father said, okay. Because father had a moham, or he loved his son very much. And most of us are that way because we identify our body as our soul. And identifying the body as the soul, we say, I am this one is my son, this is my friend, that is my enemy, not realizing that these images keep changing from birth to birth to birth. What we have, which is permanent, is the soul. And the soul has no relations except the Paramatma, the Purusha. It is to understand this Paramapurusha that we go through all these dramas of the material world so that it can, these, if we are ready to learn and be receptive, it will take us back to the source from which we came. But if we are not careful and we are going to um, look at the physical body and identify it with the soul, then we will get kinsmen and relatives of many, many things. People in power will want other people who will pamper them and make them feel powerful. People who are wise and have learned something will um, um, get students who will want to come and learn with them. And these students might be emotionally insecure or intellectually not able to grasp because they may be too tamasic or too rajasic. And so the gurus chose very, very sensibly. Now that it's out, a lot of it, it is still, it still can be misused, but it is also available for the truly truth-seeking disciple. So even though these codes are there, there is sadhana that you have to do to work through these codes. You know, some of you must have seen the James Bond series when the spy is going to meet somebody at a place called Vladivostok. He will say he will buy a ticket for Moscow and he will quietly go to Vladivostok so that the enemy will buy a ticket for Moscow and get sidetracked. Now, the real thing may be, the real clue may actually be neither in Moscow nor in Vladivostok. This person, the intelligence person, will have to do much work because before they discover how to get to that particular place and where to find it, who to find it. So if you're not using your intelligence, not intellect, intelligence, and if you're not using your inner emotional dimension, when I talk of dimension, I'm not talking of ordinary sentiment or ordinary emotions. I'm talking about intense feelings that tell you that your path is on a particular way and you are drawn to the spiritual path, not in a superficial way that you want to, irrespective of everything else, you have to find the truth, the Purusha. Then you will get hints here and there, and you will have to keep verifying it along the way. So, Sri Aurobindo, this comes into the area of Tantra to a large extent, where the Veda and Tantra were used. Tantra was the sadhana. And it is here that Sri Aurobindo, in his Tantric sadhana, after a Vedic study, found the clues into this and left it for people to find if they wish. So I started with the homas that we are talking about, the Vedic suttas and the homas. And this homa was called yajna because it was a large oven, not a small thing that we just do at home. And the yajna means a sacrifice. So why is sacrifice so important at this point? Because they tell us that first there was the one and only being. It had no name, and I say it out of because it can be a he, it can be a she. It is consciousness. And consciousness is made to be personalized or individualized so that you can understand what we are talking about. Now, then they tell us that this Purusha, that is the form of the truth, is sacrificed itself because there was nothing else. It created a Homa. It created a, it wanted to sacrifice some part of itself so that it would understand what it had to create. So we have to go into this creation itself to understand what they are talking about. So first they say in the Purusha Sukta, where the Rishi is Narayana and the Devata is also Narayana, Purusha. What do they mean by Rishi? This was the Rishi to whom the Purusha Sukta itself was first revealed in a very deep state of inner consciousness. And what he was trying to discover was himself in a sense. Both are one here because there is no other. There was only one, and there is only one. So Manu, which means in Tantric language mantra, explains that Narayana or the Nara means the primeval waters, and its resting place is Ayana. That is, Ayana means the resting place of the primeval waters is called Nara. And it is in this Nara that the pre-creation stage for the spirit is set, for the spirit's manifestation. The waters were him. He, Nara, was the supreme spirit. Therefore, he is called Narayana because he slept in himself, in his own waters. The offspring of the waters is also Nara because that is his natural abode. So, Shivani, if you can show that Vishnu on the Padmanabha Swami one, you can, meanwhile, I talk. So, the waters were him, he was the supreme spirit. And if you see, this is the picture that they are trying, that has been depicted to give you the clue. So in this clue, you will see somebody, Narayana, sleeping with 4 hands and a yellow dress on a serpent in an ocean, which is called the ocean of milk. He's called Purusha when he is sleeping there. Now, what is the ocean of milk? It is the essence of who anybody is. The best part of you is the milk because you are nourished and nurtured by your mother, just as the animals, the birds, they're all nourished by what is called the mother's milk. And the mother's milk is not just a white liquid, it is the mother's blood that becomes the milk inside. She creates the milk out of herself. And this milk, you say milk of human kindness, the milk of compassion. These are words that are used to give you the idea, the essence of what we are talking about. So when you say an ocean of milk, we are talking about an ocean which contains the entire essence of the Purusha who is lying on that ocean of milk, on a serpent. The serpent is called Adisesha or Ananta. Adisesha means the beginning and the end. Because this being was there before everything, there was no beginning for this, and there is no end for this being, this consciousness. So he's called Ananta, which means there is no end, it's endless. And here the waters that are there in the Milky Ocean, they are actually what is referred to as a cosmic Kundalini Shakti. Cosmic Kundalini Shakti means that when we talk about the chakras within us, they are like buttons to, like you press a button in your house with the television, and then you are able to uh, get the news that is happening maybe in Delhi, or in, when you press it for the BBC button, you get what's happening in London. So in the same way, with these chakras that we have inside our body, they are like buttons that you press to reach its cosmic equivalent. Now, just doing a technique or a practice of chakra visualization or chakra practices will not generally reach you to where you need to go unless you have earlier on perfected your yamas, your niyamas, the asanas, not to have a million asanas which can make us into what Swamiji used to call a glorious rubber band, but to give us a knowledge of the body and what is happening inside the body so that we can set our alignment right. The body has to be comfortably and completely and well established, aligned with all the forces of creation. It is not just sometimes we see on WhatsApp, you take this medicine, it will help you in this, you take that medicine, it helps you for something else. It is there in allopathy, it's there in Ayurveda, it's there in homeopathy, it's in everything. But the um, specialists in every field will tell you have to have faith in the doctor, you have to have faith in the medicine, you have to take that medicine given to you by a good doctor who also has a great experience with many, many patients and has learned from that experience. A person who is not commercially oriented, wanting to make as much money as possible. And you'll find a whole lot of people out there who are very good doctors in all fields, allopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, who are genuinely, who started out as seekers, and sometimes knowing their limitations, they stay where they are, and sometimes they grow into very great healers in every area. So it is not the speciality that matters, it's the person who is working with that speciality that matters. It's not the technique that matters, it's the person who has explored the technique himself or herself and found the consequences with whatever your materials are. That is what matters. And that is why the Purusha Sukta is so important, because it gives us an insight into everything. So coming to the story of Ashwatthama, he released this Brahmastra and killed a whole lot of people, and it went towards the Arjuna's grandchild who was still in the womb, and it was Krishna who had these qualities of the Purusha, who sent in the Sudarshana Chakra. Thank you. And also he went inside the womb with his siddhis to protect the child and brought the child back from death. And then the gods had to intervene. This is a story, and tell Ashwatthama to take back the missile. And he said, I'm so sorry, I don't know how to take it back. All I know is how to send it. My father didn't teach me how to take it back. So one can go on a great power trip and not know how to get off the horse when you reach your place. Because sometimes you do need to get off your horse. And that is what these Puranas are teaching us. So then they had to go to Arjuna and say, please withdraw this, because you're the only other person who knows it, because the Guru has left. So Arjuna is able to withdraw it. So we need some of these clues to know what we are dealing with. Otherwise, we can become like parrots, just repeating the suktas and not knowing what they are talking about. And that is why when you have a teacher who teaches you the Veda, like we have in Chidrup Sharma, who is who comes to the Atmadarshan ashram, yoga ashram before the COVID. And now they take classes online. People like this are to be revered because they have not only learned the Vedic stutis, the Vedic Samhita, but they are also practicing it and teaching it freely to anybody who comes to learn what the truth is. So when you get a guru like that, a preceptor like that, you have to always honor them and respect them. Now, if you don't respect the teacher, you will not get the Vedic knowledge. That's a very important thing. This culture has always respected the preceptor, the guru, the teaching, and yourself, your Atma, that is trying to learn this Vidya or this great knowledge that is there. And on that point, I just want to say one thing. In the Atma Darshan Yoga Ashram here, many people address teachers as gurus, Guruji. Now, please let it be remembered that a guru is not an ordinary title for a teacher. In the Atmadarshan Yoga Ashram, we have only one guru. It was Swami Satyananda at one time. When Swami Satyananda left the body, it was Swami Niranjananand Saraswati, who's in Mungir. He's the only guru there. The rest of the people who are teaching you or not teaching you, who may be wearing geru, who may not be wearing geru, shaved head, who come and go or wherever they are not gurus. Please be very, very careful, because a guru is a very, very exalted position which a person does not take, nor is he voted into that particular situation. It is a person who has merged with the truth, with the Satyam, which is Purusha. Such a person is ordained to be a guru by a particular lineage of other people who have come before and who have reached that position. So this is just an aside, because this is a very important aspect. Otherwise, you might be barking behind the wrong tree. So you had the waters of consciousness. They first existed, and they are the Kundalini Shakti that the Purusha Sukta will talk about later, meaning the waters of consciousness, the 7 streams that rise. All these um, uh, are clues to telling you that these rivers, the 7 rivers, are the waters of consciousness flowing through the 7 dimensions of your consciousness, which are referred to in the Gayatri mantra, the Bhuhu, Bhuaha, Suaha, Mahaha, Jana, Tapa, Satyam. These 3 lower oceans they are called, and 3 higher oceans. We'll come to the oceans a little later. So here is this Purusha with 4 hands. Why 4 hands? Because 2 hands mean the world in which he pervades. He is in everything. And the other 2 on top refer to the hands in a transcendental dimension. That is the dimension which contains the truth, which is here in a sleeping or latent way. And if we have to find the truth, we have to move into that position. So this truth, the real truth, it's called Satyam. Why Satyam? Because this is what we use, pray to, or we understand as being the Purusha. He is yellow, he wears a yellow dress. What does the yellow mean? It means light. When you see in Indian homes, people will give you turmeric and kumkum, the red powder that we have. The red, you see this, the Shakti or his energy that is gently massaging and waking him is his own energy. Sleeping latent, his own energy, or the Kundalini Ma or Prakriti, or you say Lakshmi, because she has his mark in her. Lakshma means a mark. It is he in her is energy in his consciousness that wakes him up. And he is lying on this serpent which has no beginning, no end. He is lying in eternity in his own essence. That is the meaning of this. So here he is called Satyam, and you will see attached to his navel point like an umbilical cord is a thin string like stem of a lotus which on which is sitting another person. This is the beginning of manifestation or creation, where a person who is called Brahma, not Brahman, not Parabrahman, Brahma, his creative energy is personalized, so we understand. So his first creative energy comes up and it is attached to him because there is nothing else. It's his energy, his creative energy, his Shakti that is with him. And he alone is there. So he is called the Prajapati to mean that he is the Lord of the creation when he is sitting on that lotus, because that's when he is going to commence his creation. Now, there are three words in Satyam, Satyam. Sa refers to his immutability. That is, he cannot change, he cannot be modified. Truth can never be modified. Whatever you do with the truth always remains the truth, and it will always come out at some time or the other, however well it is camouflaged. And we have all seen this in different places. The T refers to the world of creation, which is unreal and ephemeral. When something is created, it has a beginning. Something that has a beginning has an end. So it's like a warranty period. Time steps in here. A beginning and an end means time. So from eternity, this supreme being who is eternal, who is the truth that was there in the beginning, who is there now and will always be in the future, this truth now takes the form of time and starts manifesting. So every manifestation, everything in life, it can be a creation, a person, an animal, a weather, a season, a, a, an event in history, a thought, a feeling. Everything is transient and everything continues moving. Everything has a beginning, everything has an end. There is nothing that is permanent except the Satyam, the truth, or this uh, consciousness that we call the Purusha. So when you have the Satyam here, I describe for you briefly about the um, person lying there. He has um, a shankh. Shankh means a conch, which he blows. And blowing through the conch is the beginning of the vibrations of creation. He has in the other hand the chakra or Sudarshana chakra, which is the ending of a warranty period of that creation. So when you have a thought, and if that thought is scary, remember just as it came, it's going to go. If you keep giving it life by going on talking about it, thinking about it, reliving it in your life on a continuous basis, you're giving it more and more energy to be alive. So you're never rid of it. That is why they say, get in touch with your soul, your Atma, because your Atma and the Atma of every being, every living being is a fraction of this Purusha, because there was nothing else. He had to take it out of himself and make various creations, the clouds, the sky, everything. So, what is real Satya is the source of all that appears and also all that um, comes about and disappears back into. So these three words I told you, Sa is immutability, Ya is the transcendental nature, Ti is the unreal world of creation, which is transient. So when creation has to happen, Satya has to sacrifice a portion of himself, that is Sa and Ya. He has to sacrifice his immutability. Now he has to become modified because he is within the ambit of time and space, and he has to sacrifice his transcendental nature also because he is in the material world. We are all bits, fractions, a millionth of a fraction of hair of the Purusha at the level of the Atma. And that is why they say the Atma is immortal because it is a portion of that consciousness. Everything else is something that changes continuously. So he sacrifices the immutability and his transcendental nature, and he becomes the material being also. So this is called the original yajna, and this original yajna is called the original sacrifice, and it's called the Pancharatra Yajna Kratu is called because he is the one who creates this um, sacrifice out of himself. So when you want to find him, you have to sacrifice certain parts of yourself to move towards the truth. You cannot understand it with a limited mind or with a limited body, for which you have to have a proper guru to guide you. That is why I spoke about the guru. Anyone talking about any technique that they take off a book, including me, any of us, none of us are gurus here. We are all disciples in the making. We are not even perfect disciples. We are devotees. We are disciples in the making because we are interested in knowing the truth. And the only guru in this parampara here is Swami Niranjan Saraswati. Many people have different gurus, not the self-made gurus, people who have come out of a proper lineage. And those gurus are authentic people. So you follow your guru, whoever your guru is. So because of this, this is what we do when we do a havan, when we are doing even the Mrityunjaya Homa on Saturdays. What are we trying to do? We are putting a part of ourselves, our ideals, our Sankalpa Shakti into it, because this whole creation is the Sankalpa Shakti of, or the resolution or the power of the energy of resolution of the Purusha, which is called his Icha Shakti, his desire to become many. And it is this Icha Shakti that is shown as Mahalakshmi in places where you see them as pictures. Now, when you have seen this, you understand that the Devas, what did he get after sacrificing himself? He, I'm saying he for the sake of explanation, you can see it as a she, you can see it as a it, whichever you like to see, because um, every woman, every female is a she, contains an Atma. Every male is a he, contains the Atma. Everything in the universe, the things that we call things, the rivers, the waters, the earth, the fire, everything. This is the difficulty of the language. That is also consciousness which has an Atma. So whatever we see contains the Atma, and that is Purusha. And that is why they say Purusha is standing near you. Jesus will say, I'm nearer to you than your own breath. In the Quran, it is said that I'm nearer to you than your own jugular vessel. And here in the Vedas, they will say that the Purusha is within you, in your heart. How does the Purusha come? You learn pranayama. When we learn pranayama, we are looking at the ratio. The ratio is a technique. But what are we breathing in? We are breathing in vayu or air. And when we are breathing in air with prana, then that prana goes in, the divine goes in, this Purusha goes in as prana through your nostrils, goes into your whole body, keeping your body alive so that the Atma within, which is a portion of this Purusha, is able to experience the actions and consequences of the actions it has taken up and realize that all consequences are transient. And now, if you want the truth, let us go to the truth which cannot be changed or modified. It's as simple as that, and that is why many people practice meditation with the attention on the tip of the nose, because they, in their own uh, dimensions, they see or visualize the Purusha as coming in as the prana through the nostrils into the body and moving to nourish the whole body, and eventually becomes a part of the Atma that is in the heart region or the Chitta, and then flowing out, taking away all that is negative. So this is the purpose of pranayama, eventually to get in touch with the Purusha that is waiting next to you, entering into us every so many times every minute, entering and moving out, entering and moving out. Now one would ask that if he becomes so much creation, what is left? And that is the Mahima or the greatness of Purusha, that however many fractions are taken out of him, he remains the same. We say Purnamada Purnamidam. What is that? That Ada means the transcendental, the divinity, the truth, the divine is complete, whole. Purnam Idam. Idam means all that is here, and not the um, faces that we show outside, not the material bodies. Those keep changing and getting modified. They are mutable. But in essence, they contain the Atma, which is immortal. So it is this pindam, or this little bit of flesh that we call you and me, is part of the much larger, many universal dimension of the Purusha. So we have this concept here. So the in you is the temple of God. Your altar is your Atma, and that is why Jesus says, don't look here, don't look there. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not just a nice way of saying things, because people of that caliber don't go around trying to please a social unit by saying things nicely or prettily or putting words together, but they are usually people who um, have who tell you the truth, because they have merged with the truth, and that is why the guru is so important, because he will be your guide along the way. So, having practiced asana, pranayama, yama, niyama, which is a fluid state, you have to be continuously practicing certain things. Eventually, you are sitting there in meditation. Sthiram Sukam Asana, Patanjali says, something which makes you stable and comfortable. Now, that comfort doesn't mean you stretch out on the bed, because if you're stretched out on the bed, you turn this side and that side. You're not going to be alert. So there is no sthiram there. So when all this is done and we come to this, and we find that this Prajapati or Purusha floating on a lotus leaf, sometimes floating on the ocean of consciousness, had a desire. That desire is called a Satya Sankalpa, It comes according to a certain dharma. It is called Satya Dharma. Dharma means that which sustains everything, holds everything together. It's not a chaotic, impulsive wish. It is a deep um, dharmic thought of the divine, not dharmic in the way you and I think of ourselves, a cosmically dharmic. Only he alone is the dharma. He decides. And that dharma comes in the form of karma or the desire to create. So dharma was his tapas, karma was his tapas, and creation proceeded only through tapas. Tapas means the heat that comes, the austerity he did. What was this austerity? He sacrificed his transcendental nature and he sacrificed his immutability to become the world of mutable creation. And while he did that, that part of him which created was untouched. So that is why they say Purnamada, Purnamidam. This also has that capability. Purnasya Purnamadayate. You remove something out of it, it never decreases. You add something, when you go back to what is taken out, it remains the same. He is always complete. And that he within you is also always complete because it is in within you. This is the understanding of the truth and the Purusha. Now, Prajapati asks, when he sees the water mass, this being on the lotus, Brahma asks, he sees a tortoise because the water solidified in the form of a tortoise. And he asks it that it has a soft belly, that is the tender compassion of the Lord to create. And he asks him, are you of my flesh? And the tortoise said, no, I've been there all this time, ever since the beginning, even before you were here. All these that have issued forth, he says, come out of me. To demonstrate his power out of this kurma. This is a kurma avatara, which came in various situations. Excuse me. Out of this creations, out of this creation of himself, he came out with showing 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, 1,000 feet, immeasurable. When 1,000 is said in the Vedas and in the ancient texts, they do not mean the number 1,000 as we understand it now. They mean infinite. So creation is infinite. And it is he who is creation. He becomes infinite number of eyes. You are looking at me on this iPad. I'm looking at some of you on the iPad. These are his eyes. You are looking through his eyes. I'm looking through his eyes. Sahasra Sirsha, head. What is the head? The head is the place of intelligence or the ego, the distinguishing factor in creation. The forms are different, so that we are able to communicate with each other, we identify with the body and say this is I and that is you. And then you give yourself certain certain parameters to describe yourself. I'm Indian, you're American, or you're European, or I'm a woman, you're a man. These are only for the sake of identifying ourselves for a superior material relationship. In the sense of, if I want to keep alive, I have to buy food from you. And when I buy food from you, I may be using a card, then I need a recognition so somebody else doesn't take it. And these are for the sake of working. It is not for the ultimate identification of who we are. And that is where we sometimes make a mistake and we have our own feelings, ideologies, value systems. Then the another attribute of him in the form of prakriti or the energy comes in with two qualities. One is Maya and one is the gunas. The gunas are sattva, rajas, tamas. Everything in creation is a sattva, rajas, and tamas. What is sattva? Sattva is harmony, balance, light. And it is this light that Prakriti carries, the luminescence of the um, mark of the divine Purusha in her. That is, in this energy is himself. And it is this energy that is shown as a yellow garment which he is wearing. It's a garment of light because he is self-luminous. That Purusha is self-luminous, and the Purusha within you is also self-luminous, but in a very tiny way. So, uh, all beings, the tortoise itself, the Kurma, is the articulation of Kama. So, this tortoise, which is the essence of the primeval waters, represents Prakriti. That is the Prakriti is his Shakti or energy, which evolves into the entire universe. And when it becomes the entire universe, it's called Virat. It illumines itself in multiple forms. Whatever you see as creation, whatever someone else sees as creation, will be limited by our physical aspect of the eyes. But when you can look through another eye, a transcendental eye, then you will be able to see the enormity or the immensity of creation, which is the Purusha himself, and that is called the Virat Swarupa. Then the first expression of the Dharma of Satyam, which is called rhythm. Rhythm is what keeps everything in harmony. The planets moving on their own orbits, not bumping into each other. We feel that the earth is so solid when we buy a plot and we build a house and we say, my house is stable, but actually your house is also continuously moving at the subatomic levels. And the earth below you that you think is solid is constantly moving at the subatomic levels. So the firstborn, the Pritama, Pritasya, is the firstborn of the universal order. The Pratama is the first one and it keeps harmony everywhere. This harmony is there because there is a great synchronization between everything in the universe. Just like in our body, if if your little toe has a tiny cut in it, the whole body can be disturbed, even though you may continue functioning. The same way, if there is a misalignment of anything in creation, then this rhythm, the Pratama rhythm, will be aware of it and will set it right. And that is this setting right is in larger causes and not very catastrophic causes. In small causes is something like a corona, like a flood, like a weather um, situation that wipes away villages. It's like a warning system that the body of the Purusha is giving to us. So Prajapati is first born created out of the essence of waters, that is the Kurma Avatara. And all beings, all spaces, and all words are created out of that. Now, having created all these different forms of himself, he entered into them and pervaded them. That is why we say in the Isha Upanishad that Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. That is, he is there, he covers, he envelopes, he pervades everything because there's nothing, no place that he is not. That's what we call omnipresent. He transcends it because this created universe, as I told you, does not exhaust him. He transcends it and he abides in his own nature. This part of him that remains in his own nature as old is called the Purusha. Now, coming to the next aspect of Purusha, when Purusha comes into being, his energies are, his major energies come out as Prakriti. Prakriti, as I told you, is the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Many of you know about this. Tamas is the dark, uh, relatively stable rigidness within everything. It's that rigidity that keeps us as certain specific forms. I'm not a table. The table is not an umbrella. An umbrella is not me. The forms are kept for that warranty period alive through the aspect of tamas. And in our minds also, when you become ignorant and you hang on to that ignorance, and that ignorance is so tied to you that we don't, when I say I and you, please remember I'm talking of myself and I'm talking to myself also now. So when this um, tamas is so strong, we become rigid and we are not open to anything else. And this is why we hang on to our old biases and prejudices and certain situations in life, certain value systems that, and we continue doing it mindlessly. And we have difficulties because what was relevant for yesterday is not relevant for today, because yesterday is never repeated in time. Time is a constant movement. So if I ate something yesterday that hurt my body, I can't put it on a pad and say, no, I will never touch this. Because yesterday had many parameters. It was the weather, the emotions I felt, all the changing parts of this physical body and mind, which can feel pain and which can also feel discomfort and comfort. All this is keeping it in the same way, rigid ideas. All this is ignorance, which is tamas or darkness. Now, when you want to start understanding that darkness has not helped you in life, certain value systems have not helped you in life, you explore what are the systems I must now use which will help me be happier, because that's what everybody is looking for. Now, when you start exploring, you start moving. And when you start moving, you're entering into Rajas. What is Rajas? The guna. Rajas means movement, dynamism. And dynamism is what helps you to move out of one value system into another, out of one, because you're exploring and you don't know the full truth. And so we have in Rajas highs and lows. When we find something that is truly useful, then you have a high. And when you find something that is devastating because you've hung on to tamas in Rajas itself, you will have pain. So when you have pleasure and pain continuously, then what happens then? We start looking for yet something else, something that is permanent, something that doesn't change. So that's something when we look in, we are going into sattvic nature. And when you go into sattvic nature, we have to remember that because we and everything in creation is a part of that one Purusha, we will attract those vibrations that are part of him, which are sattvic. When you're tamasic, you'll attract tamas. When you're rajasic, you'll attract rajas. So you'll find that people of like minds and like hearts are by and large seen together. If you go out of sync, you're going to get into trouble. And when you're in trouble, you must look for the correct aspect that you want to come to. So in life, it's constantly like the serpent, which is adjusting itself to the form of the Lord. Like you might have mattresses these days, it's up and down, up and down. Never think that you're always going to be sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, because these gunas are fluid. Why are they fluid? Because they are part of life. Life is prana. Prana is a movement. It is not a static tamasic thing. And that is why the most ignorant person has a chance to move into a sattvic state and get an authentic guru. And if you are sattvic and then the sense of power of I am somebody special, and you differentiate yourself from everything else around you, you can go down and move into tamas, and you can get somebody who could be tamasic and passes off as a guru. So our work in yoga or understanding the Purusha or the truth is basically to work with ourselves in a very, very simple way. All we need to know first is I belong to him. And that is what we mean. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita when he says Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari is that which pulls you irresistibly towards itself, because that is who you are. Om is the first vibration of creation which is transcendental. Tat is that which becomes this, the Purusha who has become the universe. That is the fact, that is truth. So when we talk to each other and we say Hari Om Tat Sat, don't stop with Hari Om, because that's only half of that clue. Say Hari Om Tat Sat to each other, because it means that I see that divinity within me. And when I say Hari Om Tat Sat to you, I'm saying that I see that divinity in you also. So we are talking to ourselves when we are talking to each other. And if you think of the other person as someone like you, power hungry or greedy or angry, then you will find that person. You draw that Hari in that form towards yourself. This is Purusha. Now, supposing you are compassionate and you are able to understand the other being also like me, then your compassion will awaken the compassion in that other person, and you will find that that other person is drawn to you. A compassionate person is drawn to you. So this is how the world of universe um, works, and you find out about it after a very deep and continuous exploration over many, many lifetimes. So now coming to the image that we saw itself, we have to first understand the deities of the Vedic terminology. And there are many deities that are talked about. And coming to the whole creation, which is Purusha, which are talked about, because Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrapad. Many, many eyes, billions, trillions, infinite eyes. We must not go away thinking that eyes mean only those two pretty um, orifices in us which we decorate as human beings with kajal and all that. Anything that perceives is an eye. A turtle can perceive you. A door can perceive you. The trees can perceive you. They will know whether you're coming to cut them or to water them. An insect can perceive you. A lion can perceive you. These are infinite eyes everywhere. What perceives infinity is the eye of the divine. And if you want to understand the divine, you have to be in sync with infinite number of eyes. In other words, your perception has to be friendly and intimate with every being, because that other being is who you are. Sahasrapad, infinite feet. What is a feet in the Vedic language? It means a progress, because the feet is used in walking, locomotion. It is a progress on your path is called the feet. So yesterday I told you the story of the Gopika who ran and found Krishna following his footsteps. What is she doing? And he says, you found me only because you found my footsteps. His footsteps are the gurus. his footsteps are his footstep is who your guru is. And follow the footstep of your guru. And when I say footstep of your guru, his spiritual walk, not his material walk. You don't look at him and say, let me dress like him, let me walk like him, let me talk like him. That doesn't make you him. That is only the ephemeral part of Purusha. So try to understand the essence of what he is conveying to you and move in that direction. So you have, and this is the yajna I told you in brief about what happens. And the I told you about Prajapati, which is that aspect of Purusha, which comes as Satya, who sacrifices himself, his immutability and transcendental nature to become the universe of Virat, while at the same time not being exhausted. This is the Balam and the Viryam. He does not change no matter what he becomes. There are 16 shlokas, riks they are called, in the Purusha Suktam. It's the 90th sutta of the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. The first 15 verses are in Anushtup Chandas. Chandas means a meter, a rhythm. And these meters are given great importance because there are certain meters that the world has been created out of certain vibratory rhythms. They are not chaotic. So these are called Chandas. And the first 15 verses are the Anushtup Chandas, a particular meter, and the last one is Trishtup meter. And it's because of the meters that the Veda has not changed from the past thousands of years, because you to change a word in it, you have to change the whole meter, and a scholar will know when the meter is changed. So you cannot get away with changing a meter. Now, Sahasrapad also refers to the light, rays of light that come out of the um, divinity, out of the Purusha's uh, um, self-luminosity. And so the Purusha is called Surya also. And this Surya does not refer to the Surya that you see in the sky. Many people say Hindus worship the sun god. It is not that sun god we are worshipping. We are worshipping that which is permanent, the light which gives light to that sun, and trillions, infinite suns in infinite galaxies, infinite Milky Ways that form the infinite number of universes that Purusha becomes. Now, just for a quick uh, going through this Purusha, time is at 7:49. You can see this picture, and we'll do it a little more at length tomorrow. And there are in the Vedic language 2 oceans, the upper ocean and the lower ocean. You will see the lower ocean written here. It is also called the Aprakrita Salilam. Salilam means an ocean. It is not Apraketa or Aprakrita. It is not the Prakriti. It is the lower ocean. All life starts here. The Purusha is everywhere. And a time comes when there is a complete dissolving or dissolution of the entire universes back into himself. That is what is called the pralaya. Pralaya means the end of all the universes at a particular time stipulated. And that um, dissolving of the entire universes into himself is called Shiva, the auspicious one. And when you have the Islamic term Bismillah Rahman Rahim, Rahim is that aspect of him, the compassionate one who takes everything back into himself, doesn't leave you haywire. He's like a father. Come back home, he says. So this is the same thing when you go into the divine, back into the divine, It can happen in pralaya, which can happen on a large scale, the entire universe going back, staying in the womb of the Purusha and coming back again when he is the mother. So this happens. So we are talking of a time before creation where all the energies, the thought waves, the emotions, the material out of which everything is brought in, all that is in the lower ocean, the blue that you see. And it remains there until a particular time when the divine decides to start creation. So dissolution is called Shiva because the word Shiva means the auspicious one. It means he who takes you into himself. So he is called Ashutosh, who is easily pleased. And here you have this blue ocean. Now, just above that is a blue line, and then you will see these words, Bhu, one above the other on the left side, Bhu, Bhuva, Dhyau, Swar, Brihad, Dhyau, Mahar, Jana, Tapa, Satyam. Beyond Satyam is the Purusha. And the Satyam is in all these dimensions. So there are 7 dimensions above the earth meaning the material aspect of life. These are the Bhuva, Swaha, Mahar, Jana, Tapa, Satyam. And like that, there are the worlds of um, minerals and uh, unanimate substances that are also in creation. And these are nether regions, which are called the Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and like that. So there are 7 dimensions below and 7 dimensions of consciousness above. And we, the human being, is stuck between and moves between the lower ocean and the upper ocean. The lower ocean is inconscient. There is no consciousness in it, just a vague, nothing meaningful, thought vibrations, ideas, all these just floating around, not put together. And that is the lower ocean. And the upper ocean is when you move into a sattvic state and a completely sattvic state where you are a disciple and you're being helped by your guru to move into understanding the what he has merged in himself into the truth. So when Swami Shivananda said to Swami Satyananda, go teach yoga from shore to shore and door to door. This is the shore to shore he meant, not the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean, go to India, America, because a person of that caliber, a person who has merged with the totality, does not need to go and um, make a propaganda about uh, a particular technique. Beneath the technique, you have to see what is he talking to you about? What is this technique leading to? Where did his feet walk? His feet, his outer feet might have walked from one Atlantic shore to the Pacific shore, but where were the Guru's inner feet walking when all this was happening? The feet were walking towards his own inner Atma. And the Atma is in the higher ocean, which is the transcendental state of consciousness and beyond. And we are in the, from the lower ocean, we have moved through the various dimensions. We are coming to the ultimate stage. Now, all the way, if you are, like a bull in a, what do you call it? Bull in a top, in a shop, you can go with the best intentions, but you can knock over something priceless and hurt yourself or hurt the other person or hurt the value of that thing. So, as people move inside, they are sitting on the inner altar of the heart, the chitta. So when the gurus talk to you about your heart, you're talking of your chitta, which is contains all the news of all the lifetimes you have gone through. And as you're moving from one dimension to another, lest you hurt yourself and lest you hurt somebody else, you have doors. The doors don't open. From one dimension to the other, you have to open the door. And these doors are referred to as granthis. Granthis, you have the Brahma Granthi, the Vishnu Granthi, and the Rudra Granthi. And they are all in the inner subtle body that you have within your gross body, physical material body. So people pray, you will find in the Vedas, sometimes they write, "Oh God, may the divine doors in the seeker remain open and not stuck. Open them now without fail for the yajna." This is from the Rig Veda. So what do they say? First, you have the lowest bond. Loosen our lower bond. Loosen our middle bond. Loosen our upper bond. The bottom bond or the bottom door is of our physical body. The things that we think we are identified with. And then we live all our lives trying to eat, drink, procreate so that the species is kept alive. And that is an old vasana. Now, it is not terribly needed at this time because things change, as I told you. And if you're able to go beyond your identification with the physical body, you move on beyond to the next part, the middle bond, that is our emotional conflicts and cravings. When you don't let go of the lower bond, then you think of the things that you need, that which are the things that you desire, which are transformed into what you need. You cannot do without an air condition. You cannot do without a car. So things like that, those are the conflicts and cravings we have. And this is what they say, don't identify with your conflicts and cravings. Just watch it, just be a witness, because the Atma doesn't identify with anything. And the Atma is a part of the Purusha. If you have to be part of the Atma, you just have to be a witness. There is no taking sides. And then the upper bond is that of the narrowness of our mental conceptions, ideas, goals. The doors inside the subtle body of the person who does not perform yajna are closed. Please remember this. And when we are talking of yajna here, we are talking of these sacrifices we make in following the footsteps of Purusha, of the Gurus. The authentic Gurus did not have kingdoms. Swami Satyananda walked around with just, he used to say, two dhotis, two rotis. And even that he went without. Very often he walked bare feet. He did not need a palace. So the Guru's feet, even though they might have a palace, nothing wrong with having a palace. All that people are saying Janaka was a Guru, but do not identify with that. Identify with something more permanent within you. So when you do not follow this particular yama and niyama, which is why non-violence is the first paramo dharma, because if you hurt somebody else, you're hurting a part of yourself. If I cut my little finger, I'm cutting myself. The whole world is the body of Purusha, and you are part of the body of Purusha. So the subtle doors of the body, if you don't perform this exploration within yourself with an authentic spirit and a passion to find it, the doors are closed. When you open yourself out, when you're able to break your own boundaries, your own barriers, then the opening indicates the upper journey of the your own Atma, which is moving into a better dimension, and this is called Yajna. Yajna always goes upwards to the cosmic gods, and because this is part of yogic and tantric texts, when you're talking about your Yajna, you are saying it is the sacrifice and you light the fire. So Agni or the fire becomes an important energy that is called a god. So these deities that we come across in the Vedas, Agni, Indra, Yama, are all energies of the Paramatma or the totality in a but a little less powerful. So these are all aspects of Purushas. These are all aspects that are within us. And these are the gods and goddesses that we are trying to awake through the worship of Agni or fire. So tomorrow when I come, I'll tell you about what all the various gods and goddesses stand for. The entire journey we'll talk about tomorrow. And then we'll link it with what the Purusha Suktam says, because the Purusha Suktam is actually like a GPS, a guide that is taking you with great compassion into your own discipleship and moving behind the footsteps of the Gurutvam in the Purusha. Hari Om Tat Sat. And we'll chant Om 3 times out loud. We are also helped by supported by the Azan that I hear that is coming a little later today and synchronizing with us. So anyone reaching out for the truth within himself or herself, calling it by any name, is on the common path and they are part of the Sangam. Sangam means the joint energy of the search. So breathing in, let us chant the name of the Purusha, name of your Guru. Breathing in, the name of the Guru, the name of Purusha is Om. Take in a breath. Om. Om Shanti 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 Krishna Arpanamastu. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
We'll meet tomorrow.
Hari Om Tat Sat Ji.
Hari
Hari
Om
Om,
Tat Sat.
Om Hari Om, Hari
Hari
Om.
Om Sat Swamiji.
Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. All familiar voices.